Here is a tutorial on how to set up your cookbook for assignment number 3. So when you do all of your writing for this assignment, you're going to want to use text boxes. It's easy for you to move around on the page, and that's what we want because we're going to have some trickier and more artistic layouts. So to insert a text box, go to the Insert tab, and you're going to go to Text Box, click on the drop-down menu, and select Draw Text Box. So the way I'll start this assignment is I'll just go ahead and create a few different text boxes and just insert them on the page. And I'm going to kind of move them around and lay out. That way you know all the information that you need to include. And we'll go over that right away and give every text box a title. So the first thing you have to have on your first page is your title of your book. And it should tell me about what the theme of this cookbook is about. So is it maybe Italian? Is it seafood? Whatever you like. The next thing you need to have is your name. So who's it by? And that's what should be on the first page. The second page should have the name of the recipe that you're going to be talking about. You should include instructions for the user how to recreate that recipe, as well as a list of ingredients that they need to purchase to recreate it. And then you should also have an interesting fact about the recipe, maybe where it comes from. You could do an interesting fact about the ingredient, whatever you'd like. But this is all the information that you need to have included per page, and we're doing 5 recipes. So because this is a text box, it allows you to easily move it around, and that's what we want. So don't write on the page, you'll just get frustrated. I want to show you a few other things we want to play around with. So one is how to insert page numbers. So you go back to your Insert tab, and we go all the way over right here to page number. Click on it, and there is a drop-down menu that tells you if you wanted it at the top of the page, and then to the right of that, it shows you where it would be placed. So if you wanted it on the bottom, you want it in the margins, where would you like it? So I think most cookbooks tend to have the page number the bottom right, so when you're flipping through, so that's what I'm going to pick. It inserts the page number, and it'll do it on every page in sequential order. So this will be page 1, then my next page when I hit enter and move on to will be page 2 all the way down to page 6, right? So we'll have a title page, page 1, and then your 5 recipes, so your last recipe should be on page 6. And we also want you to play around with the background of your recipe book. So you're going to go to the Design tab and play around with the page color, so whatever you'd like. Let's say you select a color and you're not quite happy with it. You could go to Fill Effects, and there's lots you can play around with in here, and that's what we want you to do. So maybe I want to use 2 different colors. Those are my 2 options. I could play around with different types of shading, etc. Maybe I don't like that. You want to have texture and pattern. There's different types of textures you could include, right? There's lots and lots of options. Or patterns per se. Maybe you want to do a pattern. It should be easy to read and not necessarily take away from your photo. So maybe I'll just select polka dots. You could also insert a picture, right? So if you wanted the background to be something specific, we could go to select a picture, right? We can go from a file. So let's say if I have one on my desktop, right? This could be a seafood theme, etc. Could insert that, and you can play around with all these different things. So that's one thing. The next thing I want to show you, and maybe I'll just change this back so it's easier for us, is how to insert a picture and then how to move it on the page. So you're going to go up to the Insert tab, and you're going to go to Pictures. You would have to download it to your, like, either your desktop or your word processing 1 folder. So if we're looking for a picture, or let's just go to Google, and I already typed in seafood and I selected images, right? So let's pick this picture. I'm going to go right click, save as, save it to my desktop, buttery herbed seafood. Remember how it was saved. And I've put it on my desktop for now. For you guys, if you're not inserting the photo right away, save it in your word processing 1 folder, and that way it's there when you go to work next day. So we're going to hit save, go back to my Word document, desktop, and it was buttery herb seafood, and I select the image I want and I go to insert. Once it's inserted, there's a few other things that we want to play around with. So one is how to move it on the page. This is under position. So when it's selected, the format option pops up, and position. So you can click on any one of these, and as soon as you click on it, any one of those, it allows you to move it on the page. And that's what we want because we're playing around with some different layouts. I also want you guys to play around with the border. So under format, there's picture border and picture effects. There's picture layout. There's lots we could play around with in here. So this is this border, but there's some nicer, prettier borders in here that you could also play around with. So those are the kind of things that we want to see you doing.